Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Process. Today, I am recording my 25th episode, which is really exciting. And I thought, in honor of the 25th episode, and also in honor of the fact that at the point that I'm recording this, it is just about to be the anniversary of the day that my husband and I met, which was on the 25th. I thought, why not share the story of how we met and how this life came to be for me? Because it's a little bit unconventional, it's a little bit crazy, but it's also an amazing example of when I really trusted my gut and went for something that I wanted, despite what anybody else said. I had a hell of a lot of audacity. I also think I had a healthy dose of delusion because even now, when I think back on this story, it's hard for me to fathom that it is real life, much less that it is my life. So I love this story. I love talking about it, and I wanted to make an episode about it. And why not the 25th episode? So here is the story of how I met my husband. I moved to Australia initially in 2017 for a year, and I lived as an au pair. I traveled around the country, absolutely loved every single moment. At the end of that year, one of my really good friends, Corbin, and I, who I'd met in Australia, we went over to Southeast Asia for 4 months, and we traveled around there, did a whole bunch of crazy stuff, had the best time. And at the end of that trip, I decided to come back to Australia and do 2 weeks on the East Coast. At this point, I had not told my family that I was going back to Australia. I was telling them that I was going to Malaysia actually for a month. But my real plan was that I was coming back home and I wanted to surprise them. So the whole time I was in Australia, I was having to pretend that I was in a different time zone than what I was, which was confusing and hard to keep track of. And this isn't super relevant to the story, except for the fact that I'm now back in Australia. I have not met my husband at this point. I absolutely love this country, but I was basically thinking this is my last couple of weeks to have a lot of fun and to just enjoy myself before I go back to real life. At the end of this trip, I had a couple of days where I was going to just hang out in Brisbane before I flew home. But I had a friend who said, it's Anzac Day. Why don't you come down to Sydney? We'll go out together. We'll have a great day and we can send you off with a bang. So I booked a flight down to Sydney and went out that day, was having a great time. And I actually went out fully thinking, of course, you're not thinking anything's going to happen, but I well and truly was like, my trip is over. I am getting on a plane tomorrow. I don't even have any interest in talking to anyone. So when my husband, John, came into the pub that we were at, he was with one of his friends. And when he came over to the group of people that I was with, I actually pulled out my phone and started texting or went on Instagram or something because I had no interest. I had no interest. I had done all of that. I was ready to go home, and I wasn't interested in starting a new chapter when I was about to leave. So fast forward about an hour or so, and somehow we ended up at the bar talking. Actually, it's not somehow, I know how. Him and his friend were both named John, and I thought that was ridiculous. And that was the only reason that I went up to speak to them, because I thought it was ridiculous. So I went up to him and said, you can't both be named John. That's crazy. And so you are going to be called, I can't even remember what I called him. If my friend Becca listens to this episode, she might be able to remind me of what I called him. But then he called me Franklin for whatever reason. So for that whole afternoon that we were talking, we were just standing by the bar, shooting the shit, having a great time. He didn't even know my name, and I had no inclination of anything. I just thought this is a fun afternoon. As the afternoon went on, of course, I could tell that he was really cool and really sarcastic, and we were having this great back and forth banter. But again, I was going back to Canada the next day, so there was no point in doing anything about it. we just had a great time. I ended up getting his number at the end of the evening. We ran to the ferry because I realized that the last ferry of the evening was way earlier because it was Anzac Day. And so we quickly said goodbye. And I was like, yeah, text me tomorrow. He said he was going to text me and that maybe we could get together for breakfast before I had to go because my flight wasn't until late in the evening. I went back across the ferry to my friend's house. I told her about what happened. And I was like, yeah, it was just this, really exciting day and nothing's going to come from it. And then the next morning, he didn't message me because he ended up having to go into work. And I just thought, you know what? It's fine. I had a really great day. It was a fun interaction, and that's all it needs to be. So my friend was also going overseas this day. Her flight was leaving earlier. So I got on a train, I went into the city, and I basically had the whole day to just wait and get on the plane at, I think it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night that I was leaving. So I went to the botanical gardens. I had my backpack, like my traveling backpack, set up, and I just was sitting and looking at the opera house and the botanical gardens, saying to myself, this is probably the last time I'm ever going to be here. I should really soak it in because I absolutely loved living in Sydney. I loved my life. It was so much fun. I had such a blast. But of course, after 16 months, I had no money left. And also, I was excited to get home and to see all my friends and my family and everything like that. So while I was sitting there, John ended up messaging me and asking me if he could come pick me up and we could go and hang out before I had to go catch my flight. I, of course, said yes. We went and had a few drinks, and I was going to say food, but we actually didn't order any food, which was so weird. We were there for about 4 hours. Anyway, we did that, and then he took me to the airport. We said goodbye at the airport, and I went on my way. I went back to Canada, surprised my family, and again was thinking nothing of it. But we just never stopped talking. We kept talking and talking and talking. And this was in April. By the time we got to July, we were in a relationship. We were talking as though we were a couple. And he said, I'd love to see you. What do you think about coming out here for a weekend? Because I was working full time. I couldn't just take a bunch of time off work. I was trying to make some money after this massive travel experience. So that was on a weekend. On the Monday, we booked the flight. Then I had to drive home and tell my parents that I had booked this flight to go see John in Australia. And then I left on the Wednesday. So I left on the Wednesday, got to Australia on the Friday because of the time difference with the travel. And then I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I hopped on a flight early Monday morning and flew home. This was a crazy time because I had only spent one day with him. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I knew that we were both committed to each other from all the FaceTimes and the texts and everything like that. But I just went for it. I fully just put my trust into the universe and into trusting this connection that we had. And again, looking back on this, I truly can't believe that I did this for a weekend, all that way on a plane for one weekend. But it also was this incredible experience that cemented our connection and our relationship. From there, I flew back home. I applied to get into my master's program in Sydney, and he ended up finding a place for us to live. We did long distance until December, and then right before Christmas, I flew back over here with all of my belongings. We moved in together, and the rest is history. Of course, it was a wild time, even for my parents. I know it was a wild time. I can only imagine, as a parent now myself, how scary that would have been and how crazy it would have sounded. And I think a lot of my friends potentially were supportive on the surface, but underneath were probably freaking out, because I would have been freaking out if one of my friends was doing something like this. It doesn't make any sense that it would have worked out. It doesn't make sense. We were on opposite sides of the world. We were both working full-time jobs, so we would either need to wake up early or stay up late in order to really be able to communicate with each other. And then we had that 3-day trip, in August, which was amazing. But again, it's not very much time. I think we spent a total of 4.5 days together before I moved back here. So I get, on an objective level, It makes no sense and it sounds crazy. But this was 8 years ago. We are now married. We now have a daughter, and we are living this incredible life that is surrounded with encouragement and growth. We are constantly challenging each other and pushing each other to be better. We are upskilling ourselves in all these different areas and learning from each other. And it has just been the most incredible gift I ever could have received in this lifetime. And it is all because I had the audacity to go after what I wanted despite what anyone else said. Despite anyone else's thoughts or doubts or worries, I had a feeling in my gut. It was maybe one of the first times that I really listened to my intuition. And even though I had people saying other things to me, I listened to my intuition because I knew there was something there. But I think for a lot of us, it is really challenging to tap into this intuition, to listen to yourself, and to that knowing feeling. I think, especially as women that we have, it is so easy to dismiss that or to downplay it or to get filled with the doubt of other people that think they know better. And of course, a lot of them are doing that out of love, but still, that feeling is there for a reason. Our gut has just as many, actually, it might have more nerve connections than our brain does. It is incredibly sensitive. It is incredibly knowledgeable if we are willing to open ourselves up to listen to it. This was, for me, an example of where I did that. And when I am getting in my head, or when I am questioning myself or doubting myself, I have been pulling myself back to this experience because it is an incredible bit of evidence that I have the capacity to block out the noise, to block out the bullshit, and to do what feels right for me. Because at the end of the day, it's my life, it's your life, and you're the one living it. You're the one that has to deal with the repercussions of your actions, whether that's positive or negative or neutral or, anything in between all of those. You are the only one that actually has to live it. And so if we live our lives based on what other people are saying is best for us, and ignoring that feeling that you always have about what you need to do, you're going to be living someone else's version of your life instead of living your life. Now, I have had many experiences where I have not listened to my intuition, where I have avoided it, where I have let other people's perceptions or thoughts dictate how I showed up for myself. And inevitably, most of those times, I can look back and see that that didn't work out. That left me feeling really resentful. That left me feeling really bitter. And it wasn't a positive experience because I actually knew deep down what I wanted. And thinking about this now, I'm thinking about a very high level, simple example of this where you're at a restaurant and there's a couple of items that you're choosing between. You can't decide, you're going back and forth, you're not sure if you should get this or that. So then you ask someone, maybe you ask your partner or a friend, which one of these two do you think I should get? Now, the other person that's sitting with you, they don't have any personal investment in what you eat, but they probably do want to order. So they're like, well, I'll just say something and then you'll be fine. I'll have made the decision for you and then you can carry on. So they say something, and the moment they say it, you have this feeling in your gut of, oh, it's not exactly what I want though. Because internally, you actually already know that you wanted the other thing on the menu. You already knew that was the meal that you instinctively wanted, that your gut was saying, yeah, that sounds hella good. Let's get that. Because as soon as someone said the other thing, your reaction wasn't, yeah, that is exactly what I want. It was, okay, but not really, because you didn't listen to your gut. It was always there. And I have been practicing this actually the past few weeks specifically, where I will be thinking about doing something, or I'll be thinking about a decision that I need to make, something I need to purchase, or maybe, I don't know, something that I need to do with just the running of the household. I need to pick an order that I'm going to get things done. And because I never really trusted my gut growing up a lot of the time, I would outsource these decisions to other people, whether it was my parents or my friends or a teacher, anyone else that I could go, hey, help me make this decision because I don't know what to do. So the last few weeks, I have been practicing where if I find myself asking someone, I then take a moment to go, okay, maybe I say that I don't know the answer to this, but if I did know the answer, what would it be? Because then that allows some space for me to go, well, okay, I don't know, but if I did know, what would I say? What would I do? And I have used this a bunch of times to then make the decision myself or even interrupt myself from asking my husband and go, actually, I already know. I know what I need to do, and I'm just going to go execute. Now, these are a lot smaller examples than moving your entire life across the world to be with someone that you don't have very much face-to-face experience with. But at the core of it, it is the same concept. It is the same idea of being able to tap into that inner knowing and create space to go, well, what is it that I actually want to do in this moment? What is it that I want to order at the restaurant? What is it that I want to do right now to make myself feel better, whether that's moving my body or whether that's doing something for a business or whether that's getting some work done that I've been putting off, a specific email that I need to send. The more that you can sit with yourself and listen to that voice, I promise you, the answer is already there because you are incredibly intelligent. Your brain is working overtime all the time to take in all this information. It knows a lot of what's going on. It's just that it only filters in the information that it thinks is relevant to you in the moment. So if you have a pattern of not trusting yourself, of outsourcing your decisions to other people, then your brain will go, oh, we need to make this decision. So let's find X person to go ask them what we should do because we don't actually trust ourselves because that's the pattern that we've repeated over the years. As opposed to being able to take a beat and sit and go, what's happening in my body right now? Can I find the answer within me? Even if I don't know, if I did know, what would I do? The more that you practice this with small situations like ordering off a menu or, like I said, choosing the order that you're going to do tasks at home or at work, the more that you allow yourself to be and to sit and to just give yourself an extra 10 seconds before you ask someone, the more that you're going to find that that answer is already there. Because like I said, your brain is filtering out all this information. It's doing all that stuff to tell you, well, this is our story. This is what we do. So the more that you practice these small decision-making reps, and the more that you listen to your gut and tune into your intuition, the more that your brain can start to go, oh, okay, I've got to make this decision. And when I need to make decisions, I normally have some sort of intuitive gut feeling of what I need to do. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes and think on that, or just sit and not even necessarily think, but just sit and let the answer come to me before I go and outsource it to someone else. All of that comes with practice and repeated exposure to the thing so that eventually, potentially, you could get to a point where, I mean, look, I'm not advocating for moving across the world to be with someone, although I do have a friend who has done something similar to me. So it's not completely crazy. I mean, crazy as in no one does it, because I actually know someone in my circle who has had a very similar experience and they are now married as well. So it is possible. It is possible. I'm not advocating for it, but what I am advocating for is for you to listen. Listen to yourself, trust yourself, trust that you know way more than you think you do, because your brain is incredible at picking up cues, at making sense of it all. And it's up to you now to change the way that your brain does that to allow yourself to have more space to trust that inner knowing that already has the answer 99% of the time. Maybe I'll leave 1% available for situations where you really don't know, but most of the time you do know. At some level, you know what you need to do next. You know what's going to work for you. But it's just that we get so caught up in what other people say or in what the perceived right thing to do is, or what the societal expectation is, that we lose that sense of us, that sense of, I actually know what's best for me here. So something for you to take away from this episode is to go move across the world. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But the next time you have a little decision that you need to make, see if you can wait 10 seconds before you ask your boss, before you ask your colleague or your partner or your daughter or your dog. See if you can sit with yourself and see if you can say, try this prompt. I don't know the answer, but if I did, what would it be? All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I am so appreciative, so happy to have you here. And 25 episodes in, I am thrilled to be on this journey. I can't wait to see where it takes me. But it is all thanks to you for tuning in, for listening, for coming along this journey. If you have any thoughts or you'd like to chat with me, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me on Instagram or LinkedIn. You'll see the links for those in the description below. You could also leave me a review on Apple or Spotify, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Thank you again so much for listening. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day, whatever it is that you find yourself doing today, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.